This is WWE Colts Fan here with another DVD and Blu-ray update. Before I get into the update, if you go to my brother's YouTube channel, which is Cookin' Basic Productions, him and I teamed up to do a video where we reviewed the movie Mac and Me. What we did was we watched the movie and did our own little commentary to it, so go on over, check that out. And now we're going to go into the update, which I do only have one DVD to talk about, and it is a TV movie based off a Stephen King novel starring Richard Thomas and John Ritter and Tim Curry as Pennywise. It. Yes, the Stephen King, as I said, the TV movie based off a Stephen King novel about this group of friends. After beating this evil force, have to reunite 30 years later as adults to face it, as it is known as, because they don't know what it is, but it just takes the form of this clown played by Tim Curry. Okay, now onto the Blu-rays. First, from Sony, we have a Wolfgang Peterson political two movie pack. We have Air Force One and In the Line of Fire. Of course, Air Force One stars Harrison Ford. He plays the president, and his plane gets overtaken by a group of terrorists led by Gary Oldman. And then In the Line of Fire, which has Clint Eastwood, John Malkovich, and Rene Russo. And in that one, Eastwood plays a Secret Service agent who was supposedly the one, I'm having difficulty there, that he tried to save Kennedy, but he never did. But now this other guy is, well, should I say, the other guy played by John Malkovich, he's pretty much going after Clint Eastwood's character about that whole thing. Now this next movie, released by Lionsgate, was originally released by Miramax and MGM, but however, Miramax had the home video rights, starring Heath Ledger, Matt Damon, directed by Terry Gilliam, The Brothers Grimm. And of course, if anyone knows the story about The Brothers Grimm, it's about, well, Will and Jake Grimm. They go around to small towns. They're con artists, and they tell these elaborate stories about exorcisms and a bunch of other mystical things. But then they're called upon to, I shouldn't say perform, but actually do what they claim they can do to reverse some kind of evil curse. And that's when their stories, they become real. Now, this next movie is also from Lionsgate, and it is a biopic of Charlie Chaplin, simply called Chaplin, directed by Richard Attenborough, starring Robert Downey Jr. as Charlie Chaplin. This movie also has, I think Dan Aykroyd, Anthony Hopkins, Kevin Kline, Marissa Tomei, Mila Jovovich, and so on. It even has Geraldine. I'm assuming that. I think it's Charlie's actual daughter playing as her grandmother. Chaplin. Now, this next movie was it's from Universal. It was part of a trend that Irwin Allen started with movies such as The Poseidon Adventure and The Towering Inferno. But before Towering Inferno came out came this movie with Charlton Heston, Lorne Greene, and George Kennedy, Earthquake. Yes, about, well, obviously an earthquake that these people have to survive. I think it's supposed to take place in Los Angeles. Yeah, Southern California, so that's pretty close enough. And, yeah, it's a basic story about survival during a natural disaster. Now, this next one is the first of two criterions. That's right, two criterions I have. Well, I showed you the biopic just a little bit ago. Well, how about a movie starring the real deal, Charlie Chaplin in The Great Dictator? Here you see a picture. It's supposed to be of Charlie Chaplin with the hat, and you got The Great Dictator down here, but then you flip it upside down. It's the same thing, but it looks like Hitler. And that's the whole point of this story. This was right before World War II really broke out. And this was also Charlie Chaplin's first major film with, well, talking, because he was a silent film star. Sorry, my hand got in the way there. As you can see, here's the disc. And in this movie, Charlie Chaplin plays two characters. Plays, well, the dictator, and then he also plays a Jewish look-alike. And at the end of the movie, Charlie Chaplin gives off this speech. You know, he expresses his opinion about the war and so on. Yep. The Great Dictator. This next one from World Wrestling Entertainment, we have a Blu-ray set containing the greatest factions of all time, which includes D-Generation X, the Four Horsemen, let's see, the Dangerous Alliance from WCW, the Fabulous Freebirds, and so on and so forth. Yeah, this was actually a pretty neat set. Oh, and of course, how can we forget these guys back here? The New World Order, NWO, Hogan, Nash, and Hall, and then all the other people that joined later. Now, this next one is, well, the second criterion in the collection. I got this right before it came out through Walmart's service, and it is The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, directed by Richard Lester. And gotta quickly point out, because really he's the main reason why this set is even on Criterion's list. Because, well, for those of you that don't know who Richard Lester is the guy that got directing credits for the theatrical version of Superman 2. Yeah, director of Superman 2, the official one. Well, I shouldn't say official, but the theatrical version. But then there is another version where Richard Donner, who actually directed about 80% of the Superman 2, the original Superman 2. And here's the back explaining the restoration and whatnot for this movie. Now I gotta see if I can get this out because it is quite huge. I might need to put the camera down to open it because I might need my other hand, which is what I'm going to need to do. Okay, I'm an idiot. I'm calling myself an idiot because I was trying to open it the other way. I was trying to open it this way when actually it opens this way. And of course it just opens up. And this is, I should have said this is a 3-disc set, 2 DVDs, 1 Blu-ray, all containing the same content. And I went ahead and show you the picture there behind the Blu-ray, which, by the way, I'm not going to pull these out because it's just, as you see right here, red. That's all it is. And of course, look at the size of this book here, containing pictures, an interview with Richard Lester, and so on. Yep. A Hard Day's Night. Okay, next from DreamWorks, we have How to Train Your Dragon. This is the reissued version because the sequel just came out. To tell you the truth, most of these movies I've yet to watch, so I figured, well, what the heck, DreamWorks usually puts out good stuff. Now, this next movie from MGM was a winner for Best Picture of 1967, starring Rod Steiger and Sidney Poitier, which laid the groundwork for the 80s TV show In the Heat of the Night. Yes, about this detective, I think he's from Philadelphia, named Tibbs, played by Sidney Poitier, goes down to the South and while he's down there, there's a murder that happens and he must help this bigoted town sheriff, as it says on the back, to solve this murder. And later they do form this bond that would later translate into the show. Yeah. So In the Heat of the Night. This next movie from Paramount is the latest entry into the Jack Ryan franchise. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit. Yeah, what's his name? I know it's got Kevin Costner, but Chris Pine, there it is. Directed by Kenneth, and also starring Kenneth Branagh, along with Keira Knightley. And in this movie, Chris Pine plays Jack Ryan. He's a recruit for the CIA, and him and his fiancée, played by Keira Knightley, are trying to have a romantic vacation, but then they get dragged into this op, which he has to keep secret, by the way, from her. And his handler, or the person that he answers to, I don't know why I said recruit, is played by Kevin Costner. And they must take down this Russian criminal played by, well, the director, Kenneth Branagh. Now, this next movie from Warner Brothers, which was not originally produced by them, it was produced by RKO Radio Pictures. This is the only movie Warner Brothers has from RKO. And this movie, by all means, is a classic. It is a classic monster film. I mean, it's mentioned with the likes of, like, Godzilla. But this movie was made in 1933 during the Depression. What movie am I talking about? A movie that Universal has made and remade, King Kong, in this nice digibook. Has pictures and from the set and posters. And it shows these two different pictures from the actual movie, and then how they shot it prior to, adding in King Kong. Which, yes, I know it's stop animation, but it's still, that's incredible how they were able to do it at that time. Of course, the disc is back here. King Kong. Now, this next movie, I just had to pick it up because, well, as you know, I'm from Indiana. And not many movies have been made in Indiana, but this is one of them, with Tom Hanks, Madonna, Gina Davis, and so on and so forth. A League of Their Own, which takes place during World War II, actually. Which, of course, most of the pro athletes, they enlisted in the military during World War II. So there wasn't really a lot of pro leagues, even for baseball. So they came up with a women's league during that time, and Tom Hanks ends up becoming their coach and manager. At first he doesn't want to do it, but yet, if he wants to be part of the game, they have no choice. This movie was directed by Penny Marshall and was shot in Evansville, Indiana. So, yep. I don't think I opened the case here. A League of Their Own. Next, from Warner Brothers, directed by the guys that directed 21 Jump Street and its sequel, 22 Jump Street. I don't know why they made the jump to this, however, I guess they pulled it off. The Lego Movie. And the movie stars Chris Pratt, Will Ferrell, Elizabeth Banks, Will Arnett, Liam Neeson, and Morgan Freeman. And it's about this character right here, voiced by Chris Pratt. He's an average Lego, but he's mistaken for the most extraordinary one. And he has to help stop an evil tyrant. This next movie, I picked it up because usually a lot of the stuff that George Clooney has done I typically have liked. So I went ahead and picked up this one, The Monuments Men, that also has Matt Damon, Bill Murray, John Goodman, and Cate Blanchett. About this group of men, older men mostly, with the exception of Matt Damon and George Clooney. They go into Germany to save basically art and artifacts because, Germany will destroy them. Yeah, so that's what they're doing. They're trying to preserve 1,000 years of culture. The Monuments Men. This next one, also from Sony, is one of the few Muppets movies that Sony has. I doubt for long. It's The Muppets Take Manhattan. Now, I did this because, here, I'll show you. See, just had the Blu-ray. Got it used from the Movies You Buy bin. Of course, here's a shot of Kermit. Yeah, he's just sitting alone. I thought Miss Piggy was in the shot, but she's not. And basically, this movie follows the Muppets as they try to make it on Broadway. Directed by, I think, Frank Oz, but also has appearances by Dabney Coleman, Gregory Hines, and Joan Rivers, and amongst a few others. I just picked it up because I just like the Muppets. Who really doesn't? Who really doesn't? This next one, also from Sony, is another baseball movie starring Robert Redford, Kim Basinger, Robert Duvall, and Glenn Close. It is the first movie produced by TriStar Pictures, which was a joint venture between Columbia Pictures, CBS, and Coca-Cola. Anyway, this movie is called The Natural. And of course, my finger gets in the way. In this movie, Robert Redford plays a baseball player who was on his way into the major leagues, but then something happened and it pretty much killed his career. But then 16 years later, he joins this, almost say a minor league team called the New York Knights, and tries to, salvage his career. Now, this next movie from Warner Brothers, directed by Wolfgang Peterson, is a movie I wish I kind of waited a few months, because Warner Brothers just recently announced they are remastering this movie because it didn't really get that great of a transfer. What movie am I talking about? The Never-Ending Story. Yes, about these creatures that live. I'm trying to think where it's at. Well, anyway, it's about this young boy named Bastian. He borrows this book. He starts reading it about the story that just basically happens in his mind, and it doesn't end. Well, hello, never-ending story. And the story is about this warrior named Atreyu, and he must save this land that they live in. And also the adventures he has meeting other Atreyu, about these creatures that Atreyu meets, like a walking quarry named Rockbiter and Falkor, this is Falkor right here, and that's Atreyu riding him. Sorry about the babbling here, but that's the best way I can explain it for those that have not seen this. And this movie was also produced by a company called Producer Sales Organization, which were notoriously known for product placement and a lot of it. Yeah. Well, anyway, Never-Ending Story. It's an alright movie. Probably kids today a lot of the younger kids wouldn't get it today, but a lot of us that have grown up watching that movie do get it. Now, this next movie from Universal, starring Liam Neeson, Non-Stop. It's about this federal U.S. air marshal that keeps getting these text messages saying if he doesn't get an amount of money at a certain time, a passenger on his plane will die, like every so many minutes. 20 minutes, as it says on the back. And it comes, it's up to Liam Neeson to find out who is this person that's wanting this money. Now, this next movie, starring Charlton Heston, The Last Man Alive is Not Alone. We have the Omega Man. In this movie, which was actually a remake of a Vincent Price movie called I Am Legend. Yes, that same book, which later got remade yet again with Will Smith. In fact, Charlton Heston and Will Smith played the same character, Dr. Robert Neville. The main difference between those movies is, in this movie, they talk, the creatures talk, and they psychologically torture Robert. While in the Will Smith one, they don't talk. They just roar, and then they look terrible, too. The Omega Man. Which, by the way, I gotta point out, the script for I Am Legend was based off this one. Yeah, it was more based off the Omega Man as compared to the actual book. Now, this next movie from Warner Brothers was a movie based off a book that I had to read in middle school. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. We have The Outsiders, the complete novel edition, with C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Diane Lane, Ralph Macchio, Tom Cruise, right there. Let's see, we got Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, and the late Patrick Swayze. Basically, what this is the 2-disc edition, which had like a director's cut of the movie. Anyway, the movie's about this group of teens. Their leader's played by Patrick Swayze. and they are known as greasers. And their main rival is the Soc, as they call them. With the Soc, you know, they're the wealthy. They're going to have a future. The greasers don't. But however, the greasers do want to make a stand against the Socs. But anyway, what happens is a Soc gets murdered, or I shouldn't say murdered, but gets killed by one of the greasers. In fact, he's played by C. Thomas Howell, but then him and Ralph Macchio's character, they have to go into hiding for a while. And yeah, they have, and just a lot of things don't go as planned. Okay, this next one from Sony is the movie, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it out as Pompeii. A story about a warrior that must protect, find and save the one he loves from an evil senator played by Kiefer Sutherland. Of course, if you know about Pompeii, was destroyed by a volcano. I'll just drop it here. And he must save her before, the volcano erupts. Pompeii. Next, from Paramount, we have the Showtime show Ray Donovan with Jon Voight and Liev Schreiber, which in this show, Liev Schreiber plays a fixer for basically the wealthy. In this case, is broke, but oh well. Well, anyway, he's the guy the celebrities or very wealthy people will call like I say, someone was found dead in their bed, and he's the one that basically cleans it up and makes sure this person stays clear of any criminal charges or whatever. Well, anyway, his father, played by Jon Voight, gets paroled from prison. Well, 20 years prior to that, Ray put his dad in prison. And his dad holds a grudge. That's pretty much the basis of the entire show. This next one from MGM is the Metal Pack edition from Best Buy of the new RoboCop with, I think it has, Gary Oldman, Samuel L. Jackson, and whatnot. Anyway, it is the remake of the original movie, where this officer named Alex Murphy is practically killed, but they do change it up. Like, instead of him getting shot to death, it's a bomb, like a car bomb. So they do change it up quite a bit. Of course, this isn't as I said, this isn't the Steelbook. This is the Metal Pack. I believe I said that. Well, anyway, after the car bomb goes off, Officer Alex Murphy gets transformed into RoboCop. And for some reason, this does not want to go in there. There we go. RoboCop. Go ahead and show this as well. Okay. This next movie was so embarrassing to Tim Curry that he even writes it out in his contracts that he does for interviews or movies, TV shows, whatever. They are not, repeat, not to talk about this movie because he is that embarrassed. Even though it is a cult classic, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yes, that is Tim Curry right there, if you don't recognize him. Yeah, it's just a spoof of basically like Frankenstein, but yet he's very weird. And in this movie, it also has Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick, and I believe Meatloaf is also in it as well. Yeah, since Tim Curry was embarrassed by it, I just had to see why. Just had to do it. Now, this next one is a digibook to a movie I've yet to watch. But however, I do have the miniseries this movie is based off of, with pretty much the same cast. Son of God, produced by Mark Burnett and Roma Downey. And this really isn't so much a digibook, they give insight to production. But no, it just has pictures along with scripture from the Bible. My parents and my brother went to go see it, and they really enjoyed it, so I figured why not get it for myself. Yep, Son of God. This next movie, directed by, let's see, where is it? Robert Wise, director of West Side Story, Rodgers and Hammerstein's The Sound of Music. It's in this nice 3-disc, 2 Blu-ray, 1 DVD edition, starring Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, in which this movie, Julie Andrews plays Maria, who is a young nun who helps bring love and music to the home of Captain Von Trapp, played by Christopher Plummer, and his children. It's a classic movie, everyone has heard the song at least once from the opening. Yeah. The Sound of Music. Hey, this next one from Warner Brothers, which in fact most of the next movies except 2 are related to Warner Brothers. This first one with Charlton Heston and Edward G. Robertson's 101st and final film, Soylent Green. Let's see, this movie was made in 1973, originally by MGM, because it is part of Turner Home Entertainment, which in this movie Charlton Heston plays a detective that investigates what Soylent Green is, and it takes place in the year 2022. Anyway, in his investigation, because he is a detective, I don't know if I said that, he goes around New York trying to find out what it is people are missing. All he knows is it's connected to this company and this product called Soylent Green. And the ending at the time was actually a very surprising end. Now, I said most of these were movies were Warner Brothers or Warner Brothers related. Well, this one wasn't exactly Warner Brothers, but it was a co-production between Orion Pictures and HBO, which is part of Time Warner. We have The Three Amigos with Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short, in which they play these movie characters. Yeah, they're characters in their own movie. And this Mexican village is actually, they call them to come save their village from bandits. And that's, basically the whole comical adventure behind it all. And of course, once they get to the village, at first they think, okay, we're here to perform our act. Then they find out real quick that it's not an act, that they're actually believed to be heroes. Now, this next one from HBO, starring Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson. It is season 1 of the show, which Matthew McConaughey is leaving, or has left, True Detective. Of course, this series is about these two detectives. Starts in 1995, 1995 Louisiana, which there's this murder that they get called to, goes unsolved. I finally got that out. But then, fast forward to 2012, a similar murder takes place. And basically, it's how they have to get back together to help solve this case. Go ahead and open it up here. And the entire season is on 3 discs, which they also have on the 3rd disc a bunch of interviews with the creator, the actors, and T-Bone Burnett about the music. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and put my camera back down so I can put this back in the box. Okay, now this next one is the last one of this video that's from Warner Brothers, based off the TV show, and this was, well, as I said, it's based off a TV show, Twilight Zone, the movie, which this movie consists of 4 segments that are based off various episodes of the Twilight Zone and then brought to the big screen. You know, they did make some changes to them just to, well, make it more modern or whatever. Well, anyway, the directors involved for this entire movie, the opening and the first segment was John Landis, in which there's quite a bit of controversy with the John Landis segment. But then also we have Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante for segment 3, and then the final segment directed by George Miller. Now, the problem is with the John Landis segment, it starred Vic Morrow. Well, there's a scene where they're in Vietnam, because it's about this man that goes through time inexplicably. And there was an accident on the set that killed Vic Morrow and these twins. And there was a bunch of lawsuits involved. Anyway, and then there's another segment here. This one was directed by Spielberg, about these senior citizens that get younger or they feel younger by playing the simple game of kick the can. Then there's another segment, I think it's the one directed by Joe Dante, where they enter this kid's imagination, and in his imagination, it's cartoon-inspired powers to enslave his family. And then finally, about a man that people believe is going crazy because he's seeing a creature on the plane that he's in that's basically trying to bring down the plane by tearing up the engine or whatever. The Twilight Zone movie. Alright, and these last 2 movies are 80s movies. Well, I think even Twilight Zone the movie was too, but anyway, this one with Matthew Broderick, Dabney Coleman, and Ali Sheedy, War Games, about this young man that hacks into a computer system owned by the U.S. government that, well, they believe is nuclear war drills. Let's see what it's called. Well, actually, I think it's what it is called. It's called War Games. But anyway, they have to track down the developer of the computer, in which, to see if this is the real deal, to go into World War III with Russia or not. And then finally, from Universal, part of their Best of the Decades series from the 80s, Anthony Michael Hall and Weird Science, directed by John Hughes, about these 2 high school nerds that just want to create the perfect woman, in which they do that, well, of course in the script. And basically they create her just to learn how to pick up women, but for the most part. They use her to help get dates, like what's wrong with them, what do they need to do. Well, anyway, that does it for me for now. So see you later.